Nobody believes me when I tell them I'm an introvert. I mean, honestly, I'd much rather be at home watching Anderson Cooper, listening to a 1973 Donny Hathaway vinyl, and sipping on a warm cup of Earl Grey green tea. So on this day, I was taking a leap of faith. I can still remember that day like it was yesterday. February 26, 2012, in Sanford, Florida. Anderson Cooper called it "Stand Your Ground." A 17-year-old boy had been fatally shot, he said. He was about my height. He looked like me. And I looked like my son. And it could have been me. And what if that was my son? So I put down that warm cup of Earl Grey green tea. I took the needle off that 73 Hathaway vinyl record. And I said, that's it. One day my son will be 17, and I shouldn't have to teach him how to look less threatening. We shouldn't have to teach our young people how to look less suspicious. So the next day I walked into work ready to be the change. In the lobby was a small informational table for a group called Toastmasters. I walked over and I asked them, "Hey, this looks good and all, but how much is it going to cost me?" "Well, it's free for employees, so it won't cost you a dime," she told me. Free 99? I showed up to every meeting for the next 3 years. It taught me how to make eye contact, how to be less distracting with unnecessary hand movements. It gave me my voice. But how do you get your voice to the ears of the people? Well, that answer came as I was thumbing through my timeline one day. The ad simply said, "Looking for speakers in the Orlando area." It was for an event called Pachakasha. Well, it was more of a scaled-down version at the Science Center, but I didn't care. I had a message, and I wanted to tell it. A few days later, I got an email from a gentleman named Eddie Sullivan. He said he wanted to give me a chance, and that's all I was asking for. That night, I spoke at the Science Center for a little over 200 people, and as I stood on the stage and looked up at all the faces looking back at me, I thought to myself, "Mama, I made it." Well, later that night, a few of us went out to celebrate after, and as we sat downtown, we saw a cop car fly downtown Orange Avenue and thought nothing of it. You know how things get downtown after hours, right? A few minutes later, we saw 2 more cop cars heading in the same direction. Later that night, Anderson Cooper would tell me there was a madman at Pulse nightclub, and he had just committed what is now considered the second worst mass shooting in U.S. history. On the night when I had the greatest night of my life, 49 other individuals had lost theirs. Wait a minute. There seems to be this reoccurring narrative of guns and violence, and it's making me sick. But from tragedy comes triumph. And the very next day, I get an email from a guy named Ed Peterson, one of the other speakers at Pachakasha with me, and he tells me, "I need to meet this brother named Ricardo Williams. He has an event called Nerd Night, and he thinks I'd make a good addition to the speaker lineup." A few days later, I get an email from Ricardo. He says he just wants to give me a chance. And that's all I've ever asked for. A chance to speak about whatever. A chance to create whatever. But I realize these words can only take me so far. So on my lunch break, I asked my friend John Von Muters, I think I want to make a soapbox. Well, I knew soapbox at the time had a very negative connotation, but I didn't care. I had a message, and I wanted to tell it. My friend John says, "I can make you a soapbox, and you should take it to an event called Art in Odd Places." Well, that's where I met Barbara Hartley and Julian Chambliss and Hayani Hogan, and they let me explore my creative spirit up and down the streets of downtown Orlando. When people ask me what are my favorite things, the easy answer is my family, sneakers, vintage vinyl records. But the truth is, my favorite things are people. People who are willing to give a chance on complete strangers. Eddie Sullivan, Ricardo Williams, Barbara Hartley, all of these people were willing to give me a chance when no one else knew who Aquanza Cadagan was, or what truth-telling was, or that crazy soapbox idea. From the moment I put down that warm cup of Earl Grey green tea, and I took the needle off the 73 Hathaway record, I've had the opportunity to speak at the Orlando Science Center. Twice, but who's counting? The Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Center, the Orlando Museum of Art. And every time I've told people, if I can do it, you can do it. What are my favorite things? Taking risks. Taking risks on our dreams and ideas, and most importantly, people. What are my favorite things? The opportunity to stand in front of you guys tonight and tell my story. My name is Aquanza Cadagan. Thank you guys so much.